We are live on Beyond the Woodline. I'm Joe the host. I'm your host, and today I have with me Hank from Hank's Think Tank. How you doing, Hank?
Hey man, what's going on?
Not too much, man. Thanks a lot for joining me, man. I know we got uh, connected via a mutual friend of ours, Jeremy Johnson. Well, Jeremiah Johnson. I'm sure he's not a little kid anymore, so he probably goes by Jeremiah. Um, he's a real good friend of mine. His whole family is actually. I forgot to tell you before we went on the air. I was doing the math, and I think I've known them at least 43, 44 years. That whole family.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good long time.
yeah. It's funny when I see people post on Facebook. Hey, do you have any friends that are like 10 years or more? I mean, his whole family is part of that. His sister and my sister are best friends. They've been best friends since little kids. Uh, they're still best friends to this day. I know his dad, his brothers work with my brother for I bet over 20 years at least. So we're pretty close as far as family goes. And we're just real good people, man. And Jeremy, if you're listening, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, I just recently met him, and he's part of an organization out here that does good works in the county. And I haven't spent a whole lot of time with him, but he sure seems like good people.
Yeah,
And maybe one of these days I'll get to meet his family too. That'd be great.
yeah, man. They're
So,
awesome people. They're great, great,
yeah,
great people. Yeah.
yeah.
Really, you don't. I don't even consider them friends at this point. They're, they're family.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a season for family, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, man. I think about that stuff. I remember he's like his younger brother and then his sister. I remember when they were born. They're so much younger than us. But yeah, we grew up together, played football, basketball in the damn streets. We played
Oh
tackle
yeah,
football. All that good stuff. Drank a lot of beer in my
there you go.
driveway.
That's it.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun
Yeah,
times,
nothing
man.
wrong with that.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, we were legal age, right? Yeah. But anyway, but cool, man. Hey, tell me a little bit about your podcast.
So, Hank's Think Tank is a variety show.
Mhm.
We're long form podcasting, and everything that we do is we shoot our podcast and then we take it into post production. So we don't do anything live. Everything's pre recorded, but I really don't edit any content. I'll cut off the front end and the back end, put it in an intro and an outro, and call it a podcast. But yeah, we've had a lot of different people in here. We've had everybody from, paranormal experts all the way down to, city and government leaders. And I think I'm about 60 shows in now. So we've done quite a few. Our first one was of the Texas prison system. And, as far as audio and video goes, it was really a disaster, but it was a beautiful disaster because the content was great. And it was my first show, and you know how it is.
Right.
Even though it wasn't fantastic, just seeing it up there and having it go, it was really worth it.
Yeah.
And so I always refer back to that one as, man, that was the best podcast I ever did. But I've had a lot of good conversations. I've got a studio that's separate from my home, and so it's its own building, and that makes it a whole lot easier to get guests in here and get them comfortable. Because everything we do also is face to face. I don't do a whole lot of stuff like this, and I need to get into it more though, so I can do more podcasts with people in different locations. But we usually have people come in, and man, we've covered everything from the Vietnam War all the way to paranormal experiences, all the way back down to, I've had a guy in here who was a narc for 20 years, and
Really?
he told us all about his escapades and busting people and what kind of tactics the police would use, to arrest people and stuff like that. I've had guys from ICE in here. And we're going to have somebody come in and talk about critical race theory
Okay.
soon. And man, we've done it all. And
Mhm.
we're just starting out. So I'm hoping that this year is going to be the year that things turn around and we really get out there and grow.
Right.
And so that's what I'm looking forward. Your channel seems to be doing good, dude. So I'm glad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. We're doing pretty good. I'm gonna make some changes like we were talking about earlier. But also one of the things I want to do is get more into uh, like murder mystery kind of stuff, unsolved mysteries.
Yeah. That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. I want to talk about serial killers, a lot of crime, that goes on, and
Right.
I
Well, you're
actually
in
want to get
Texas, so there's
yeah,
plenty of serial killers here to talk about. That's for
yeah,
sure.
man, yeah. I
Yeah,
definitely want to get
Texas has had a bunch.
yeah, yeah. I just want to get a lot more of that drama type, and I also want to get some military veterans in here and kind of recognize them and their story, and
Oh yeah.
so that's what I really want to do too. I kind of want to. I don't want to get away from the paranormal and the Bigfoot and the UFO stuff, but I'll always have that. But I just want to mix it up a little bit more and just
Yeah.
something
Sounds
for
good.
everyone. You know,
Yeah, there you go.
you know.
Speaking of serial killers, I lived in the Heights when I was a kid.
I live there right
And
now.
do you really?
I'm on
You ever
11th
hear?
Street. Yeah.
Really? You're on 11th? I got clients over there, man, on
Okay.
11th and Heights.
Okay.
So, have you ever heard of Dean Coral and Elmer Wayne Henley and those guys?
I've heard the Henley. Who was the Candyman? Wasn't there a Candyman here in the Heights?
Yeah, that was Dean Coral.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And yeah, so Elmer Wayne Henley, and there was another guy too. I was too little though to
Right.
really remember what was going on, but I know that I ended up at one of their parties with some of my older friends.
No shit, huh?
Oh yeah. And they killed 27 kids, man, and
Yeah.
buried them in different parts of the Heights and all that.
Right.
And I think Henley got busted first, and he ended up ratting on Dean Coral and the other guy,
Right.
David Brooks. That's
Okay.
who it was, David Brooks.
Okay.
But yeah, I actually met those guys at one point, and that blows me
Jeez.
away when I
Yeah.
think about it.
That
Yeah,
is
yeah. The Heights
crazy.
was a crazy place back then, man. It was great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
I went to Hogg Junior High and Harvard Elementary.
Oh, did you? Oh,
So,
that's
oh
cool,
yeah,
man. That's
yeah, I
cool.
was right there, man.
I live right across the street from Love Elementary.
Do you really?
Yeah. Yeah. I look
Wow.
out my window and there's a courtyard right there where they play baseball and stuff.
Yeah, man, that's a
Yeah.
great place now.
Oh, I
The
love it
Heights
here,
isn't what
man.
it used to be. It's beautiful now.
No, it's a beautiful place. I tell people all the time, man. I said, I don't have one of these big, $300,000 homes, but I got a little bitty apartment, but I love it out here.
Oh, it's got to be great.
Right,
So
right,
when
right.
did they ditch the train? The train that used to cruise through there.
Um, I don't know. Yeah, yeah. You know what? I don't know. I do remember the train out of that you're talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and there's still a hill,
yeah,
like if you're going like on 14th down 14th from Heights Boulevard to Stoodywood,
right.
there'll be a little hill right there,
Yeah,
and you can
yeah,
look down, and that's where the railroad track was,
right.
but they got rid of it. It's
Yeah,
weird.
yeah. It's been a long time, a
I bet
long
it
time.
has.
Yeah,
Yeah. I'd
but
love to move back to the Heights. The place is
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. Right after this podcast, I'm going to 19th Street.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
19th Street is it's amazing over there now. I don't know when last time you've been there, but it's got so many restaurants, so many eateries and
Yeah, some
breweries.
good bars,
Yeah,
live music. Yeah.
yeah, a lot of
I've
good
got a
live music.
Yeah, I got a guy that came in here and he played guitar, and he ended up going the next day, I think, and played at one of the bars in the Heights, and we talked about that.
Right.
I was like, man, that's great. You
Yeah,
know, I'm
yeah.
glad the place is still vital.
Oh, it's a great place. It's a great place. I wouldn't. I don't want to say I
Yeah,
wouldn't move out, but I definitely love it here. If I had to move out, I'd probably move out to where you're at now because I've actually lived at a couple of places out there in Willis,
yeah,
So, and then
yeah. We're in Splendora, and it's different.
yeah, yeah, a lot
Yeah,
more.
we first moved out here, it was country, and now it's just
Yeah,
kind of a cross between rural and suburb, more suburb. So yeah, Houston's kind of infected this whole area out here. You know.
I remember whenever spring was just like all wooded area,
Oh yeah.
and now it's just like its own metropolitan almost. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Um, you mentioned your friend that plays guitar. I see all your guitars in the background there. I guess
Yeah.
you're a player.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, before this room became a studio, I used to come out here and play guitar
Mhm.
and spend a lot of time by myself in the evenings and stuff. And I've had a few paranormal experiences in this room.
Really?
And one, I had all the lights cut down and I was just kind of playing. I was just going through my scales and just kind of taking some time and I think this was maybe a wintertime 2 years ago. And it's strange because I was really into it. I was really concentrating on what I was doing, trying to get better. And all of a sudden, this orb of light that was probably as big as a bowling ball came out of the corner of the room. And I didn't, because I was looking down at my guitar and I kind of saw it out of my peripheral vision. And it came around slowly And by the time I looked up and saw it, it rapidly hit me in the chest. And I actually felt it, you
Wow.
know, scared me so bad I chunked my favorite guitar. I mean, I just screamed out and chunked it on the floor and got up and ran out, you know. And I went out and collected myself, and I thought to myself, man, you know, maybe you just saw something, maybe you just, you know, you drink too much, whatever. Something was going on.
Right.
So I came back in and everything seemed cool, but then I had a few more just really weird experiences where all of a sudden all the, you know, your body hair stands up
Right.
and you get that weird cold feeling. And so I finally had a paranormal group from Spring Paranormal Investigators
Mhm.
come and check the room out because it got to the point where I couldn't handle being out here at night.
Right.
And
Really? Wow.
oh yeah. Yeah, so they came and they did an investigation. Now, all of my guitars are used. You know, I didn't buy anything new. Not a rich dude. So what they told me was there was a guy that was attached, or a spirit that was attached to one of the guitars that I'd bought.
Okay.
And so they tried to get him to move on and you know, and leave and whatever, but he didn't want to do that. And so through this process, you know, I finally said, hey, if the dude wants to stay, as long as he don't fuck with me, I'm good with it.
Right.
So you know, we had this weird episode. They brought in a medium, and you know, through her, there was some discussion and all that, and things have really quelled out a lot. But every once in a while, I have a little bit of an experience, and I just think it's that guy
Right.
that's attached to the guitar. But see, it's weird because I was going to sell that guitar,
Okay.
and I think that's what pissed him off was
Right.
he liked it here, everything was cool, didn't want to leave, and knew I was trying to sell the guitar. So I took it off the market, and I don't play it or nothing. It just sits here, and I
Right.
consider it to be his. You know.
Okay.
So,
Yeah,
but
man.
that's one experience that I've had. I've had a few.
Yeah. I like that story though. You know, especially the part with the orb. You know.
Freaky. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it was really freaky. And I've never really had anything that was physical like that.
Right.
So, you know, that kind of thing will freak you out. But
Right.
yeah, it was pretty scary. But yeah, I don't want that to happen again.
Yeah, I
So,
understand that.
yeah, I used to own the house next door to the house where I live now. And this is another story. I just got to tell it because this one is
Yeah.
really compelling. So my wife had cancer, my ex-wife, she had cancer. She's in the hospital and I'm at home alone. It's a 4-bedroom house up on blocks in the middle of the forest, very quiet, very dark. You really never hear anything, you know? And I had 2 Dalmatians. Well, and it was cold and we had a fireplace in the living room. And so this night I decided to sleep in the living room, just made a makeshift bed on the floor and built me a nice hot fire because our heat wasn't working real well. And in the middle of the night, I woke up. But the strange part about it was it's like my consciousness wasn't complete yet. I had woken up, but my hearing didn't work. And it's like my vision hadn't completely turned on. So when I looked across the living room into the kitchen, I saw a woman in a gown, like a long cotton gown. And she walked around to the other side of the kitchen and looked out the window and sighed. And when she looked out the window, I could see out the window too. And there was a big pine tree out there that doesn't exist at all.
Oh, damn.
But when she sighed, it scared me. And I went, and when I did that, my dogs woke up. So this is weird because here's what I got from that whole experience. I think maybe somehow I crossed into another parallel universe
Right.
and that this chick exists in the same space that I occupied, but just on a different time continuum. You know
Okay.
what I mean?
Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
so normally we couldn't see each other, but somehow it had meshed and we could at that point.
Okay.
But the thing that freaked me out the most was these 2 dogs would wake up at anything.
Mhm.
And you know, I could hear her footsteps when she walked through the kitchen, and definitely when she sighed, I heard it. But
Right.
they didn't wake up until I went, you know, and when I went like that, everything changed and she disappeared and the pine tree disappeared and now the blinds were closed again. And it was strange. I got so much out of that short little experience.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing about it was I never felt alone at home anymore after that. And my wife was always in the hospital. I mean, this went on for years, man. She was in the hospital forever. And so I was home alone a lot. And I always felt like there was somebody else there with me. And so I didn't feel, you know what I mean?
Right,
Didn't feel
right.
too alone. It's not like I felt like I was being watched or anything like that. I just felt like there was someone else there who was in the same situation I was in, kind of. And we've since sold and moved from that house and all that. But man, that was a hell of an experience. I mean, and it was the weirdest thing that's ever happened. Unexplainable and as real as you and I are talking,
Right.
you know? So yeah, that was freaky.
Yeah, I was going to ask you that. I mean, she looked like a real person, right?
Yeah, she wasn't see-through or any of that. I mean, she was just as real as real can get, you know.
Right.
And she was in just a long cotton gown. I guess it was cotton, kind of a white gown, blonde girl, maybe in her 20s or 30s, something like that.
Okay.
And she walked over the window. It gave me the impression she was waiting for somebody to come home, you know,
Oh,
and she just sighed. She looked outside and just went, you know. And then when I heard her, it freaked me out. I was like, oh shit, there's somebody in my house, you know. And that's when I went, and when I did that, then the dogs woke up. And when the dogs woke up, they never even looked at the kitchen. They were just looking at me. I
okay.
was like, wow, you know, what the hell? So
Yeah.
yeah, pretty
So that was,
freaky.
yeah. But she never acknowledged you in any way.
No, I don't think she knew I was there. I think it's like I was able to see into her time continuum, but
Okay.
she wasn't able to see back in mine. But it gave me the impression that there's a lot more going on than we're able to see. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
and that solid objects exist, maybe even in the room we're in,
Right.
but we just can't get to them because we're stuck in this particular universe.
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading into it too much, but
Yeah. No. No. No.
that's
Yeah.
what I got out of it.
Yeah.
You know, just
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of weird.
And I was even thinking that maybe it was like some kind of like a time slip. Maybe you saw something from the past,
Yeah, maybe.
and
You know,
because
hard to tell.
if you talk to a lot of like people who like study time, they'll tell you that the past, the present, and the future, it all exists together. You know, so
Right. Yeah,
so
because we always think time's linear. You know, time moves
right.
forward, and it actually doesn't. And it's hard to put your finger on that and wrap your head around it. But yeah, time is like something we invented, so it doesn't really,
Yeah,
it doesn't really exist.
it doesn't exist.
You
Yeah,
know, it's strange. But yeah, I think
Angelina,
it could have been something like that.
I don't know if you can see the comments that come up on the screen or not, but
Yeah,
Angelina,
no.
Angelina says yes, they do. I've seen them too. I believe you, man.
Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah.
But and I've had a few other paranormal experiences. The medium that was here from Spring Paranormal Investigators told me that she thought that I was as sensitive to a certain degree, but I haven't developed it. I haven't
Right,
exercised it.
right.
And I think that's possible,
Mhm.
because I've always kind of seen things that, and I don't want to say weren't there, but I've always kind of seen things that other people didn't see
Right,
and felt things that other people didn't feel. And there have been times that I've had the kind of dreams that would come true, or
right.
portions of those dreams would come true. And that's always been really weird, you
Mhm.
know. And
Yeah.
so maybe I am a sensitive to a certain degree, but don't want to be, you know.
Yeah. It's not a
Who,
bad
need,
thing, but
who needs that?
yeah,
I mean, life's complicated enough as it is. You don't need all that being thrown at you, too.
yeah, yeah. Every now and then, I'll have like these dreams, especially when it comes to my dad. He passed away like in 2012.
Yeah.
I've only dreamt of him three different times. Man, they were so realistic. They were so
Yeah.
realistic, and this the very first dream I had was maybe 2 years ago of him, and we were like some kind of like an airport or a bus depot or some kind of terminal, and I saw one of my uncles, two of my uncles who had passed, and one of my aunts, and then I saw my dad. Uh, all four of these people had passed, but I saw some of my other cousins who were still with us there in the dream too. My uncle, my dad's twin brother, and none of them spoke to me. The people who had passed, none of them spoke to me. They just kind of looked at me and smiled. And but that dream was just the weirdest, most realistic dream. And then someone told me, you probably went somewhere where people are coming and going. You know,
Right. Or it's visitation.
right.
They're just
There you
coming
go.
back to visit.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
yeah, so that was like, it was just such a weird dream. I know shit, man. I woke up, I was crying, so,
Yeah.
and and see my
Yeah.
dad
I
for
lost my dad in 2012 also.
okay.
So yeah, I lost my mom in 2010. And hey man, you want to hear something weird? So I go over to my mom's house. My mom and dad lived on the property. We had bought them a house and moved it over here, and because they were in Seattle and they couldn't take care of themselves. So, my mom had dementia. She wasn't doing real good. I went over there to visit one day, and my mom says, "Hey, you need to go get my purse." And I said, "Why do you need your purse?" She said, "Well, Aunt Mia's coming to get me." And Aunt Mia's been dead for like 10
Right.
years, And I said, "Mom, what do you mean Aunt Mia's coming to get?" She goes, "Where are you going?" I said, "Where are you going?" She said, "You know where I'm going." And it just made me feel really weird. And I was like, "Okay, if it'll make you happy, I'll go get your purse." So I went and got her purse and I put it on the bed next to her. She had a hospital bed. And we talked for a few more minutes and I went home. And my dad called me that night at like 1:30 and told me that my mom passed away. And I was like, damn, and she even told me Aunt Mia's coming to get me.
Right.
And then when I said, well, where are y'all going? She goes, you know where I'm going. So that's freaky,
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
but I've heard of people doing that before though too. So when
yeah,
you told me, man, I was like, holy shit. I knew where you're going with the story, but I've heard people talk like
I hope somebody good comes to get me.
that.
with,
Yeah,
with my past, man, you never know.
yeah. I don't think
You don't know
anybody
who
gonna
it could
come get
be.
me. No one's gonna want to
Yeah,
claim me. I don't think.
yeah, you never know.
Yeah, it might be the wrong kind of people come get me.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I know you guys have covered Bigfoot and UFOs and stuff. I haven't talked about UFOs a lot on my channel. I'd love to. I'd love to get some guys to talk about that. That whole topic just really fascinates me a lot.
Right.
And it's been hard for me to find good people to discuss that. But I did talk with somebody not long ago who thought that paranormal experiences and UFOs were very much related, you know,
Mhm. Right.
and that maybe paranormal experiences could be things that are brought on by alien visitation. So, what do you think about that?
I don't know how related they are, um, but I've heard that before too. A lot of people truly believe it. I don't know if I believe it, but I'm not going to sit here and say I don't believe it either, um,
Right.
because there's actually a lot of instances where people are visited in their rooms in their own houses by aliens.
Yeah.
So I would see how people could get that lumped in there with the paranormal. Um,
Right.
or even paranormal activity. People just write it off as UFO or alien activity. And not knowing what they're really seeing or not. And I'm not telling anybody what they saw or what they didn't see. Um, that's just my own opinion. But really, and that goes for the whole Bigfoot thing too. I think there's a lot of paranormal activity out in the woods that people say
Oh yeah.
it was a Bigfoot, or it was a Bigfoot that threw this stick. It was a Bigfoot I heard walking. I think there's a lot of paranormal activity out in the
Right.
woods that people just don't know. So I've known paranormal teams that have gone out, to the woods and had experiences. Uh,
Have you done any paranormal investigations of your own?
Yeah, up near Mineral Wells, Texas. You know where Mineral Wells is at? It's up
No.
like
What
around
is?
the Fort Worth area.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, it's up in that area. I've gone to it's called Haunted Hill House, I believe. It's either the most haunted place in the United States. It's definitely the most haunted place in Texas.
Wow.
And yeah. So I've gone there, man. And so are you familiar with like a spirit box
Yeah.
where?
Yeah.
Okay. This guy, his name is Daniel. Real man. He's a technical guy like you wouldn't believe. Um, he actually builds them himself, and so he was showing me all the ins and outs. Now, if you ever seen one, they have like all this static, and you can't
Right.
really. The ones he has no static. I mean, you can, they're very clear. So he was showing me how it works, all the bells and whistles and the different channels and frequencies that he uses.
Yeah. They're frequency scanners, aren't they?
Basically, yeah, yeah,
Yeah. I think it's a
yeah,
frequency scanner with the squelch turned up, so
right.
you're getting that that whole. Yeah. It's kind
Static
of
stuff, all
strange.
that white
Yeah.
noise.
Yeah. All that
Uh,
white noise, and then I guess try to pick voices out of that.
right.
Yeah.
So
Spirit boxes are weird. Yeah.
yeah. So he was gonna go upstairs, right? And he's like, I'm fixing to go upstairs, and uh, Angelina says Daniels are amazing frequency scanners. Yeah, she knows Daniel too.
Cool.
Um, so he's like, I'm gonna go upstairs. I'm gonna do a session upstairs. I said, can I go with you? And as soon as I said that, a voice came through the box said, come up. Yeah,
Yeah. See, I'd be going the other way. You
yeah. You know
know,
what? I'm not going up. I'm not going up. I'll stay down here. You know.
right.
And he actually had this little toy that his son got. I think his son was still a baby, maybe 1 or 2 years old. It was like this little penguin about this big, and it had like this little clear optic looking hair on his head.
Okay.
And when you touched the hair, it would light up and it would play music, turn all different kind of little colors. And he said, "Goes, dude. As soon as I saw that, I said, oh, I'm taking that with me on these investigations. He took it away from his son, basically. Um, so we went to the room where this little boy had died. Uh, the story behind the little boy was he was a special needs kid, and his parents would actually keep him in the attic, and that's where he died.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so
It's
it was right next
pitiful.
to his playroom. So we put that little toy in the center of the room on top of a chair, and I'm just standing, leaning against the doorway like that, just looking at this thing, and that thing was just going off,
Mm,
playing by itself. You know, so that was pretty strange.
yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the when I first got to the house, I felt something mess with my ear a little bit. But
Yeah.
but that was all the experience I had there. I had a lot more experience in the house that I lived in personally.
Well, you've heard of the Stanley Hotel, right?
Right, right, yeah,
Yeah. It's in Colorado in Estes Park.
right.
And we went up there a couple of years back and did the ghost tour, whatever it was that they
Mhm.
had there. And it was actually pretty good. But there's a part that's I think below the kitchen, and it's still kind of a part that's carved out of the mountain that it sits on.
Okay.
And it's really cool. It's got like this cave looking deal, but they use it to go back and forth between the warehouse and the kitchen or whatever.
Mhm.
And when I was down there, I know somebody brushed their hands in the back of my hair, and that was freaky feeling.
Yeah,
And you can really feel inside that hotel that it's got some activity for
right.
sure. I mean, there's just an electricity in the air when you enter a place like that.
Yeah, the whole
You
atmosphere
know,
changes.
yeah, yeah, you can definitely feel it. But yeah, I'm real familiar with the spirit boxes and REM pods and the EMF detectors and all that kind of stuff. So my only question is, I just wonder how spirits can interact with electronics easier than they can interact with individuals. You know what I mean? At
Right.
least it seems to be that way.
Yeah.
And
I,
that just kind of throws me a little bit.
yeah. I don't know if it's the energy that these electronics put off. Maybe that it makes it easier for them to use that uh, power source. I guess you can call it that.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe it makes it easier for them to manipulate that stuff than moving a
Right.
chair. But there's
Yeah. I
definitely
would sure hate to be stuck here, man. So I'm hoping something like that doesn't happen.
right.
You know?
I think maybe some of these spirits don't mind sticking around. Maybe they don't want to go. And
Yeah, it's
you know,
possible.
like you said, they try to move that guy along with your guitar. And maybe he didn't want
Yeah.
to go. Yeah, maybe he just wanted to stick around, man, and enjoy enjoy
Yeah.
somebody's music too.
Yeah. Maybe fear, who knows?
Yeah, yeah,
Or maybe they had such a bad existence here, they're worried that they'll go be with the same people they were with here.
yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I guess it's just hard to tell.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. The house I used to live in, my cousin came and did some remodeling to it. And the day before they were actually going to come in there and start, doing the demo work, he was talking about what he was going to do, and he looks down at his arm, and he's kind of like grabbing his arm. He's looking at my other cousin like, what are you doing? My other cousin's like, dude, I'm standing over here. I'm not even close to you. So he starts talking again and telling us his story about, not his story, but what he's going to do tomorrow. And he looks down at his arm again. He looks at my cousin. He goes, dude, why are you grabbing me? He goes, dude, I'm standing over here. You would see me grab you. So he gets into the corner of the kitchen. He's talking to where he can see everyone.
Yeah.
And he looks down at his arm again, and he walks across the kitchen, and he grabs him by the arm. He goes, look, cuz. And he grabs him real, real tight by the arm. He goes, this is what it feels like. It feels like someone's grabbing my arm. So we
Mm.
went ahead and we told him about all the stuff going on in the house. And the next day, when he came to start work, he held up his arm, and on his forearm there were bruises in the shape of fingers on his arm.
Wow.
So I don't think that the people who owned the house previously wanted him doing any kind of remodeling on the house.
Yeah, that doesn't sound real good at all.
Yeah.
There's a lot of places in the Heights that are pretty active. There's a lot of old mansions out
Oh, yeah,
there on Heights Boulevard on the lower side.
right,
6th, 7th, 8th.
right,
I bet a lot of those places are pretty active.
yeah, yeah.
You
There's a
know.
lot of old houses over here.
Oh
But they're
yeah.
all fixed up so damn nice. Like I said,
Oh
you
yeah.
find a house for $300,000, you better jump on it. 'Cause,
Good luck finding one.
yeah,
Yeah. But
yeah,
there's a lot of history out there too.
mhm,
4 miles from downtown, I think it was the first development that Houston ever really had.
right,
The first like official neighborhood development
right.
was the Heights. And yeah, crazy.
Yeah,
What a wonderful place.
yeah. It's a great place. I love it here. But
Yeah.
what about UFOs? You ever seen any kind of UFO kind of stuff or?
I don't think that I have. I'd like to,
Mhm.
but I haven't, and that's unfortunate. But the thing is, I don't think I've been in this situation to where I've put myself in the right place to be able to do it. I'd
Right.
love to go out to Arizona, like Area 51 or somewhere like that, check it out,
Mhm.
and other desert locations and like beach locations and things like that, and to where you have a larger view of the sky. That would be
Right.
awesome.
Right.
We have such a thick canopy out here, and
Right.
I think that prevents a lot from going on. Now, my son, who's 30 years old, and he stayed up partying one night, and him and Alex were both hanging out on the roof of that old house I was telling you about that I lived in before. And
Okay.
they're up there about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and now this is a story that just came down recently. He told me this maybe 3 months ago,
Okay.
and they saw a UFO that was interesting. They said that it started out as an orb that moved across the sky without any sound, but then turned into a craft and hovered above them. But it was 300 to 500 feet, I think, above them.
Mhm.
And then a spotlight came down and was shining on our neighbor's house across the street. And then it went away, and then that thing just disappeared. I mean, it was like here and gone.
Right.
And so, with the anti-gravity and all that stuff that I think they use for propulsion,
Right.
they can cruise, super fast and just gone. But I thought it was, and I asked Nathan, I said, how come you never told me about that? He said, I didn't think you'd believe me. I was it's like,
Yeah.
dude, that would have been great. You should have taken a picture of it or something, but he didn't get anything.
Oh yeah,
But
you never do. That's the last thing you think about. You can have a camera in your hand, and that's the last thing you think about is taking a picture.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. Yeah, and it's too bad that all the UFO shots are usually pretty grainy and pretty bad shots. There's been a few that have been pretty believable.
Right.
That Tic Tac one that we had discussed earlier, I think was pretty darn believable, being that it was brought out by the Navy, and these are highly decorated officials that were saying they interacted with this thing and were proving everything it could do. Makes you wonder, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. The
But
universe is a big place. We can't be the only ones out here.
yeah, see, and I think that most people who think that we are just kind of being arrogant.
Right.
There's just no way we could be the only life form. If you think about a universe that's infinite, and you think about the infinite number of possibilities that could be about the same type of Earth or planetary substance that we have, I mean, yeah, man, there's a lot of life out there. Whether it can get back to us or not, I don't know.
Right.
But I would think there's a lot of life out there.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Probably within
Yeah.
our own solar system. We just haven't found it yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's massive. It would take forever to, search it all out.
Right. Yeah.
But, and I really think that a lot of the stealth technology that we have and even microwave technology and other technology that we've gotten, Bob Lazar says that, we reverse engineered a bunch of that stuff. And that's how we ended up with those technologies.
Right.
And if you look at it, right about the time that all that took place, we had this technological explosion that took
Right.
place. And I really believe that a lot of that came from alien technology, and nobody's going to say that it did, but it
Right.
did, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. Right about the mid 70s, early 80s, everything just shot off, man.
Oh yeah, and it hadn't stopped.
No.
And with the advent of AI and everything else, no telling where it's going. I think we'll all be plugged in, before it's over with.
Yeah. Yeah. You
You
can go
know.
buy a brand new laptop tomorrow. In 6 months, it'll be obsolete.
Oh yeah. And the interesting thing about it is, Ed Snowden, the guy that
Right.
came out with all that stuff, he said that basically we're already cyborgs. We just don't realize it. But everybody's attached to one of these.
Right.
Everybody's got a phone. And this phone has, I mean, heck, man, this is more technology than was used to launch the space shuttle,
Yeah. Yeah.
just wrapped up in a little bitty phone. So think about what it's going to be like in 20 or 50 years.
Right.
Wow. I'll probably be gone by then, but
Yeah.
man, I mean, it's impossible to even consider that, we'll be able to probably live forever and just be plugged in and live in a virtual reality that's better than this one.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
know?
There you go. You don't have to leave your bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be kind of strange, but it just might be good. Who knows?
Yeah, I personally like technology. I know some people don't, but I like it. To me, it brings me closer to people I don't talk to every day, and allows me to meet people like you that I would have never met. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, everything that's it's kind of a yin and yang thing. So everything that's beautiful is just equally as brutal. So technology provides really good stuff, and on the other end, it can be just as horrible as it can be great.
right,
Take social media for instance. Social media has been great. I mean, it's brought people together that hadn't seen each other in years. And I mean, I contacted people I went to school with and who I would have never talked to without social media.
right,
But on the other end of the spectrum, it spreads so much misinformation and dissent that we're now a clearly a divided nation
right,
that's in trouble.
right,
And I mean, and I blame social media for a lot of that.
right.
I mean, we're clearly in trouble as a nation. So, I mean, it's got as much good as it does bad. I think it all depends on how you use it, you know. And that's the bad part about technology. I think it's always going to have that component that can be weaponized in one way or another. And yeah, it's pitiful, but that's the way it is. Not everybody's got a great heart.
Yeah, and even those with great hearts don't always have good intentions.
Yeah, that's for sure. Or happen along something along the way.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we were talking about like some of like the videos of like UFOs, and what do you think about that old Patterson Gimlin film of the Bigfoot walking across Bluff Creek? Have you seen that one or?
Yeah, I think I have. I know which one you're talking about.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's pretty realistic.
Right.
Hard to dispute it. Um, the only problem that I have with Bigfoot is by now, why wouldn't we have caught one?
Right.
And I
Right.
mean, I even asked Spring Paranormal the same thing. I said, if spirits exist, how come nobody's captured one? And I know that they're, gaseous and maybe they don't have mass, and that's the reason why you can't physically capture one. But it just seems like with Bigfoot, we would have found some really hard evidence, some bones, something that would represent like Neanderthal man or
Right.
something like that, a large skeletal, you know, remains or something. And that I know of, don't think we found anything like that. But that doesn't explain it away either,
Right.
because it could be, if it's alien technology along there, along those lines too, then hey, maybe it's not of this world. So,
Right.
when they go to die, they're not dying here.
Yeah. Like
But
I
they
talked to.
appear to be quite humanoid. So
Yeah.
I mean, it's weird.
Yeah.
It's just really weird,
Yeah. And
unexplained.
I've seen documentaries with park rangers who are in national parks where there are known bears. And
Hmm.
they've said, some of these guys said, I've worked here for 25 years. I've never come across a dead bear carcass. Uh, some of these people that
That's
actually go out
true.
and some of these people that actually go out and like tag mountain lions. They say they'll
Hmm.
track these mountain lions for 3 weeks before they can tag them. So I think something like a primate is going to be able to outsmart us a lot more than a, you know,
Probably
well,
so,
you
you
know,
know, and animals do go hide before they die if they know they're dying.
yeah. And
So,
nature certainly cleans up after itself.
oh yeah,
I've
rather
seen.
quickly.
Yeah, I remember going out towards Magnolia. You know where Magnolia's
Oh
at.
yeah.
Uh, there was a deer that had gotten hit by a car and he died in 3 days just with the buzzards alone. In 3 days, he was nothing but skin and bones.
Oh yeah.
Right, and this was on the side of the road. So imagine in the forest where all the other animals and the bacteria and just in the environment itself is really acidic. It can really eat away at a corpse.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. Yeah. And
so
decomp can really go pretty quick.
yeah, especially here in the summertime.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, for sure.
but
Yeah. But
yeah,
I always thought that Bigfoot was kind of a Northwest type thing, up
right,
around Oregon, Idaho, places
yeah.
like that.
Everyone always says, I thought it was like up in the Pacific Northwest. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So you were kind of surprised when I told you about the same as the forest, right?
Yeah, but I've heard some other stories of there being a possibility of that here. I wonder if anybody's ever been physically attacked by one.
Yes. Yes.
You know?
I've known people who've been attacked by them, who've had physical altercations with them, who've been pushed by them, Yeah.
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 Wow. Yeah, that seems kind of terrifying,
Yeah.
you know, because the thing's got to be, as strong as, like a gorilla is what, 10 times stronger than a human. I mean, they could pull your arms off.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
would think that a Bigfoot could do the same kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I
And
think we would have a lot to learn from it. And that's why I wish we could capture one,
mm,
because we'd have a lot to learn from it, because they've managed to survive all these years out in the elements,
right.
which is something that we probably at this point wouldn't be able to do
Right.
because we live too cushy of a life.
Right.
I
Yeah.
mean, when the temperature drops to 40, people start freaking out.
Yeah. Dude, I
You
was out
know,
there last Friday and I was freezing my ass off at 40 degrees.
it was
Yeah, no
it was
shit,
pretty
man.
cold. It's
Yeah.
pretty cold. But I
Yeah.
wonder, if we still have the fortitude to be able to survive in the elements like a Bigfoot or something like that would.
Yeah. Or like any
And
other
and
wild animal.
yeah, and I also wonder if their anatomy is different enough to where it compensates for all that,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to find out. Are they vegetarians? I mean, what's the deal? You
Well,
know?
I've talked to people who have actually seen them kill deer. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I
Wow.
talked to a guy up near Possum Kingdom. I don't know if you're familiar with that area. It's here in Texas,
No.
Possum Kingdom, up towards the Dallas area. Uh,
Yeah, I don't think I've ever even heard of Possum
yeah,
Kingdom.
man. If you look on YouTube, they've got one of the most magnificent Fourth of July displays in the whole
Okay.
country.
Yeah.
Okay, that's like one of their claim to fame is their Fourth of July celebration. And actually, are you familiar with Pat Green? He talks about it uh, in one of his songs. I can't remember what
Not
song it is, but
really.
anyway, he says,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, he's a country singer. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, when he was a kid, maybe 14, 15 years old, he was fishing on the pier late at night. Uh, and he said the freaking deer just came running out of the woods, and it was like in a little cove area, and the deer ran right through the water. He goes, usually deer will run around the cove. These
Yeah.
things were just going straight out of the water. I mean, straight out of the woods into the water. And he said he's seen this Bigfoot coming out on all fours, and he grabbed the deer and he snapped his hind legs. He says he heard him snap.
Ah.
Yeah, and that another one came out and was like had his arms out like that, trying to block the other deer from
Yeah.
going anywhere. And the first deer that was just trying to paw its way out but couldn't get any traction, of course. And he stood up on the pier. And when he stood up, they saw him stand up, and they went and they grabbed the deer that was on the ground, and he picked it up and just snapped its neck and walked off with it.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a pretty gruesome story. But I've heard people talk about how they've seen them tackle deer and snap their neck. There's a friend of mine named Will Jevning. He's got his own Bigfoot podcast, and he talked to a guy in Canada who saw this damn Bigfoot and the moose battling it out. Yeah, the moose actually knocked him down, but he wound up, breaking this moose's neck.
Yeah. Moose are gigantic, man.
Yeah,
I mean, some of those things, I think they stand like 9 or 10 feet tall. They're
yeah,
huge.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And he saw
Yeah.
the whole fight go on, and he said that was one of the scariest
See,
things he ever saw.
yeah. And see, that's another example of, just living. If there's Bigfoot living in Canada, I mean, I don't know if you've ever been up there or not. I have. And it's freezing up there.
Right? Yeah,
I
yeah. They,
mean,
they got snow going on right now.
oh, yeah. Our cold is considered hot,
Right.
up
Yeah.
there. And
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it's freezing. So how can something live in just in that kind of environment
Mhm.
and make it that's kind of a humanoid with the same, maybe the same anatomical structure as we have?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just it freaks me out and makes me wonder, And you'd think that you'd see structures of some sort,
Mhm.
that they would want to try to shelter themselves, and shelter would be a big thing for them, I would think, but you don't see anything like that.
Well, we found structures out in the woods before too.
Have you
Uh,
really?
yeah, yeah, we found these TP looking structures. As a matter of fact, a friend of mine last Thursday sent me a picture of a tree structure. He found it in Davy Crockett. Yeah,
Wow.
I was actually doing a podcast, and you can hear me on the podcast. Goes, well, he sent me a tree structure, but I can't show the picture right now because I was on the podcast.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we do. My friend, he actually found a hog out there with his head ripped off. We got a picture of that.
Wow.
What the hell rips off a hog's head?
Yeah,
You know,
that's a tough deal to do too,
yeah,
you know?
yeah,
So yeah.
yeah, yeah. No bullet holes, no knife wounds, just the head just gone. Yeah, no slicing, just
Yeah.
rip your head off.
Yeah, just like that, thing with the cattle mutilations and stuff that's going on. That's kind of weird. Have you seen the documentary on Skinwalker Ranch?
Yeah, yeah. I've
Yeah.
seen multiple Skinwalker Ranch documentaries. Yeah,
Yeah, that place has got something going on. I don't know if that's just a magnetic field or what, but there's
yeah,
something really strange going on there.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely got like I think it's got like portals there myself. And
Yeah,
because there's been all kinds of I won't even call them cryptids. I just call them creatures. These weird
right.
looking creatures that people have seen. And
Yeah, and I think there's just places in the world that where things like that gather, like Juneau, Alaska. They say Juneau, Alaska's
right, yeah,
big for paranormal stuff and just all kinds of strange happenings, places like that.
right,
And it just makes me wonder if, when you look at the globe and you think about gravity and you think about everything else, are there places where there's just anomalies,
yeah,
and those anomalies maybe are attractants to, either aliens or other type of activity that just kind of goes there because, it's like a magnet to metal,
right,
you
right.
know.
Yeah. Like the
At
ley
least it seems
lines.
that way. Yeah,
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 yeah. Yeah, there's actually several places on this planet that have the ley lines and they have like all that activity. Skinwalker Ranch is
right.
probably the most famous because of the bulk of activity it has there. But Mineral Wells is actually one of those places that has a bunch of activity where there's paranormal UFO and
Yeah, I'd
different
like to
creatures.
check that out.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's something
yeah,
else. Just like crop circles, I think crop circles are evidence of UFOs.
right.
What
Yeah,
else could be doing that?
yeah, especially overnight.
Oh yeah, over
You
and
know,
as big as they are,
right.
and they're,
Extravagant. Yeah,
yeah, architectural. I mean, it's like wow, who could, nobody could pull that off,
right.
and
I've
they
seen
haven't
people do
figured.
it, but they can't do it overnight like that.
Yeah, there's
Or
no
nothing
way.
like those real intricate designs. Uh,
Right.
so,
And a lot of that stuff always resembles what I would think would be some sort of landing strip or some sort of compass dial or something like
yeah,
that to give an indication of go this way or go that way,
yeah,
you know.
yeah. Kind of
So
like the
some of
old,
those things are crazy looking.
yeah, kind of like the old Viking compass.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That makes sense. I never thought about that, but yeah, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah. It really makes you wonder. There's a lot more going on in this life than most people get, I think.
Yeah,
And that's a good thing because it keeps things really, really interesting. And I
yeah,
think there's a lot of stuff that we'll never figure out because we're not supposed to.
yeah,
And we haven't been given those keys.
right, right. Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. And I think our government knows a lot more than what they're going to share or probably
Oh,
ever share.
absolutely. Yeah.
And I think that goes for the whole Bigfoot thing too. I think there's something to that. For whatever reason, they don't want to share it. And I could probably do a whole show on people who've had encounters with the Men in Black when it comes to Bigfoot.
Really?
Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah. I tell you some stories off the air, but I won't talk about it on the air because I'll be shut down in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but here in the same as the forest, there's been incidents with the Men in Black have showed up and basically told people to shut up, quit talking about it. People that
Yeah.
I personally know. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and I don't
Yeah, and
know
I
if
don't,
it's.
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say I don't know if it's because. So someone once told me that according to the Endangered Species Act, if a if an animal like a Bigfoot was proven to exist, like all logging would have to stop until they figured out what's going on with this animal, what's its habitat, um, how many there are, and stuff like that. And when you think about it, I was reading that a third of our economy revolves around the lumber industry. When you think
Oh
about all
yeah.
the housing, paper, all the what do you call the other industries that depend
Oh yeah.
on
There's a lot. Yeah. Just
yeah,
pulp alone.
yeah,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
for example, I'm in printing, so I don't just depend on paper. I depend on ink. I depend on the equipment.
Hmm.
All the chemicals that go into it. So there's a lot of
Right.
there's a lot of that the lumber industry.
Yeah. Even turpentine and stuff like that
Right.
all
Yeah.
comes from
And
pine.
you
And
look at
yeah.
the spotted owl that happened up there in Washington when they were
Hmm.
going. I mean, it crippled the lumber industry up there.
Yeah.
You know. So imagine what happens if we say, hey, yeah, there is a primate running around out here. And if it's some kind
Yeah.
of a
That'd be
human,
crazy.
if it's some kind of a human, now it's got human rights, right? So that that's a whole other rabbit hole
Yeah.
to go down.
I'm not sure if I'm willing to give it rights yet.
Yeah. Well,
So I
trust me,
need a
there
little
probably be
bit more
plenty of groups
power
out
here.
there. There probably be plenty of groups out there that'll make a big stink about it.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Yeah. There would. Yeah. So I guess maybe the government would consider that to be an issue of national security when you think about it in those terms,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And I never really considered it like that before. So I guess it would be.
Yeah.
They would have to keep wraps on that kind of thing just to keep the economy stable,
Right.
which I'm not so sure we're in a stable economy at this point
No.
right now
No. I
anyway.
think it's actually gonna get worse.
So, well,
Yeah.
yeah, now I've noticed this the past month or so, the media has been talking about inflation a lot.
Right.
And, we went through an inflationary spiral back in the 70s, I remember. And there was a guy, a leading economist, his name was Howard Ruff, and he wrote a couple of books. And he also had a publication called the Rough Times.
Okay.
And he talked about that things like inflationary spirals and other economic issues are usually brought on by media rhetoric. And so now that the media is starting to say, hey, we've got this inflation that's popping up and get used to spending more for this and get used to spend, they're actually creating inflation by talking about inflation. And I think they need
Right.
to back off a little bit, at
Right.
least I'm hoping that they will, because after COVID and everything else, I mean, the last thing we need is to have and inflation's a deep economic issue. And the last thing we need are deep economic issues that are going to start affecting us in other areas of our life since we've already been so hardly affected by COVID, the shutdown and even politics and division and everything
Right.
else. The last thing we need is to have economic hard times on a large scale.
Right.
So yeah, I'm concerned about our country. I really am.
Yeah.
And I don't really consider myself to be a Republican or a Democrat. I think I'm kind of bipartisan, I guess,
Mm-hmm.
because I see that there's problems and also positives on both sides. But man, I hope for this country. I really do.
Right.
And
Yeah.
we just got to get past a lot, and I think we need to grow up as a society,
Yeah. I think you nailed it right there. I think there's too many people on both sides who get their feelings hurt so easily, and we got to
Right.
keep our eye on the ball. We got to keep our eye on the prize and what's best for this country, what's best for each other. Because if I'm doing good, you're doing good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
and
really all.
we used to live in a spirit of helpfulness where everybody kind of helped each other out and people were happy and don't really know what's happened. Everybody seems so angry now, and every little word, every little thing, you've got this cancel culture and all this, and man, it's really hurting. I just don't think that people have figured this out yet. And I think once everybody figures out that, hey, they don't need to be so sensitive and we're all just trying to make it,
Yeah.
then maybe it'll get better. At least I'm hoping it will.
Dude, we should be all on the same team if you ask me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we're all
yeah,
Americans, you
yeah,
know. So I don't care if you're a Republican or a Democrat, you're American, you know. So
right,
I got respect for you right there,
right.
you know.
I agree with
So yeah.
you. Cool,
But man, you're making me think about all this stuff, and I'm gonna have to get way into a
man.
little bit more UFO studies and really I haven't considered the Bigfoot thing a whole lot.
Right.
It's just something that's kind of passed me by, but man, you got me thinking about it now.
Mhm. Dude, if
And
you ever need help, if you ever want to talk to somebody on your show, man, let me know. I'll definitely find you some guests. And
okay.
I got
Yeah.
some really good guys here in Texas. As a matter of fact, if you'll probably have to do like a Skype meeting with them, but they're really
Okay.
good people, man. I got a friend of mine named Daniel. Actually, he's really good with the UFO stuff. He'll tell you about our Roswell that we had here in Texas. I forgot where it was at, but he's a very knowledgeable kid.
Okay. Have you ever heard of the Cash Landrum incident?
Oh, I don't think I have.
Okay, so back in I think it may have been the 70s, but it may have been the 80s as well. And it happened in Plum Grove, which is just north of
Okay,
where I am.
okay,
And so it was Betty Cash and
yeah,
I think Dorothy Landrum.
right.
And it was Dorothy Landrum's grandson also was in the car.
Mhm.
And so they're cruising down Plum Grove Road. This is like 9 o'clock at night. And back then, all this area was heavily wooded and there wasn't a whole lot of people living here, you know? And all this is documented. You can find it on the internet. It's really pretty good. So I'm hoping I'm telling the right story and I'm not embellishing or anything like that. I'm just going to try to go on what I've heard and what I think to be true. But so they're cruising along one night, and I don't know if they came back from church or something like that. But Betty and Dorothy, I believe her name is, are in the front, and the kid's in the back. He's a boy. He was, I think, 9 or 12 years old, and they get to a stop sign, and they notice this bright light that's above the tree line. And all of a sudden, their car kind of goes haywire, electronic problems, car dies. So this craft kind of comes over them and hovers, and they're able to see it. And Betty Cash gets out of the car, and she doesn't really approach it, but she just wanted to get a better look, because sometimes a look through the windshield just isn't enough. And when she went to get back in the car, she realized how hot the car was. And so a day or two goes by. Now, all three of these people end up in the hospital with serious radiation burns. And Betty Cash and I think it's Dorothy Landrum, I hope it is, they both end up dying later on in life from, I think, leukemia or something, which some people think was brought about by this incident that they had. But they had actually sued the United States military because the military came in and said they were doing test flights of something out there, and that's possible what happened. But I think it was a cover up because we don't have any, or we didn't have any craft back then that it would emit radiation to the point of giving people radiation burns where they look like they had third-degree sunburns
Right,
at night sitting in their car,
right.
you know?
Yeah, yeah. I did
And
hear
it,
of that incident. Yeah, you're right.
yeah, and it's really documented. And actually, I think that the grandson still lives in Dayton, Texas,
Okay,
which isn't far from here. And
right,
I've tried to locate that kid. I'm hoping that sometime I can,
right.
because I'd love to get him on the podcast. He's got to remember it.
Yeah,
If
yeah.
he was 9 or 12, he probably remembers at least a good portion of it. And I'd love to get him on the podcast and talk to him about that particular incident and what he got out of it and what he remembered about his aunt or his mom or whoever she was and her friend, about what they talked about after the incident and while it was going on. And, it had to be a terrifying thing. And to me, that would be some hardcore evidence. Now, I know that it was either Channel 2 or Channel 11 or somebody had talked to this kid a couple of years back, maybe 5 or 10 years ago. And it was one of those brief things that you see on the news,
Right,
and they didn't really get into it. But it's something I'd like to sit for an hour, and pick this kid's brain. And he's probably 40 or 50 by now, but, pick his brain and find out, what went on, how he felt about it. Because to me, that would be more hardcore evidence than most things that I've heard. And the cool part is, if you look it up, the Cash Landrum incident, all this stuff is documented, and you can read about it for hours and hours and hours on the internet. So if you want to get some good UFO story, that's the one to go with.
Okay.
That and Bob Lazar are two that
Right.
I think just nail it and just say, hey, look, it's time to stop saying could there be, and go from could there be to okay, there is.
Right.
Now how do we deal with it? What should we do as a nation to prepare for possible contact? I really don't think that there's anything that's going to try to kill us or any of that kind of thing. Probably just a curiosity, But what can we learn from that species, and what can they learn from us?
Right.
And there's got to be a takeaway for both of us, and I think that the government's actually attempting through little outs like the Tic Tac and other things that have come out in recent years. I think they're trying to prepare us for, hey, this exists. It's the way it is. We've known it for years, and you guys need to be able to absorb it, wrap your head around it, and here's how we're going to deal with it.
Right.
And I think it probably would have come out before now, but we've had so many problems in government the past, especially 8-10 years.
Right.
It's been rough, and I think that it's kind of been put on the back burner because how much can a nation handle?
Yeah.
But sorry, I went off a little bit.
No, man, you're good.
But yeah, Cash Landrum was something I read about actually just recently, because I've made an attempt to really find somebody who has legitimate, verifiable information about UFOs that I could get on the show.
Right.
And that's really what I've tried to do. And believe it or not, it's very hard to find somebody who you can document and say, okay, this person's legit.
Right.
It's just tough to do. And I'm hoping that I can, pull it off in this next year. It would be nice, because if I can find somebody, I really want to start doing a series on UFOs.
Yeah.
Because it's a topic I think we all need to discuss. We all need to get familiar with and understand, because it's definitely something that's in our future and it's not going away.
Right.
Well,
cool, Hank. We're ready, coming up on our hour here, man. Tell everybody one more time where they can find your podcast.
Okay. You could search YouTube for Hank's Think Tank. And we've got about 60 videos now, so check it out. There's something for everybody, and I sure would like to see you guys on the show. It'd be great. If you'd like to come on the show, I accept all takers. So, I mean, drop me an email. I can be reached at studio13media@gmail.com. And, I'm there. I'm also on Facebook under Hank Vat, and that's V as in Victor, AT. And Hank's Think Tank is also on Facebook too. And man, we'd sure love to see you guys out there. And Joe, I just want to say, I really appreciate you inviting me on the show. You're the first person that's ever invited me on a podcast. Got to admit, I was nervous, man. I kind of know how my guests feel now, because I've always wondered, why are you nervous? It's just a show. But I got kind of a bundle of nerves, and it's worn off now. I'm feeling good. But man, I appreciate you having me on, and I'd love to do this on Hank's Think Tank too, and have you on.
Yeah,
I think it'd be great.
Yeah,
let's definitely work that out sometime in the future. You ever travel and get up this way?
Oh yeah.
Oh man, it'd be great then. You'd love the studio. We treat everybody great. I've got a full bar in here.
Oh,
so yeah, man.
I'll be there tomorrow.
Well, I'll tell you what, after this is over, let's book it. Let's do it, man. I'd love to have you out.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
So guys, thanks for watching and listening to me. I know I ramble on sometimes, but this has really been a good experience. I had a good time.
Yeah, me too, man. Thank you again. And thanks everybody in the chat room for participating. I really appreciate it. And we will see you guys Thursday night. And, hold on real quick, Mr. Hank.
All right.
All right, guys. Good night.
All right.